back to my channel. I want to talk about a certain type of book, and that is a classic. I personally really love classics. My favorite one, let me show you. Here, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. My favorite classic of all time. And you know, here's the thing about classics. I don't know where to put this. Here's the thing about classics, okay, is that you might really like some of them, but some of them are just really god-awful books. They're terrible, they're not great, but you know, they're classics and people want to read them, and you're gonna kind of like have to read them in school and whatnot. I can't complain, I like the classics I read in school, but it's a thing, you know, not every classic you read is gonna be a great one. So today I'm just gonna give you 3 recommendations for classics that you might have read but also might not have read, but ones that I actually think are very much worth it. The first classic I'm going to be talking about is one by Emily Bronte, and that's Wuthering Heights. Now I'm showing you both copies because they're both really pretty. This copy I got from my grandmother, and this one I also got from my grandmother. She just lent this one to me, and because I was like, oh Oma, can I read this? And she was like, sure. And then I told her I really liked it. She was like, keep the book. And then she just gave me this one as well. This is like those Reader's Digest copies that come with like a little information thingy about the author and whatnot, and it has like illustrations. I'll show you one. Is that not cute? That's cute. That's very cute. That's so cute. What is Wuthering Heights even about?
According to Wikipedia, Wuthering Heights is a novel by Emily Bronte published in 1847 under her pseudonym Ellis Bell. It is her only finished novel.
That's a tragedy. Okay, so it was published in 1847, and it kind of follows the Earnshaw family. It's about this family. They live in this house, Wuthering Heights, and the father of this family kind of adopts, they don't really use the word adopt, but he adopts a boy, Heathcliff, and Heathcliff grows up with this family, and he starts falling for their daughter, Catherine. Well, it's not really falling for her, but Catherine and Heathcliff become very close, very good friends. But as they grow up, you know, Catherine marries someone else, they drift apart, but Heathcliff kind of comes back with a vengeance and just fucks everything up. I don't know how else to describe it. Also, the genres this falls into, it's like a tragedy, a romance, a gothic fiction. Oh, it's also a psychological and a domestic fiction. I really liked all of the characters. Some of them are so terrible. Heathcliff himself, like our main character, terrible man. I never really want to meet Heathcliff in my own life because he's very terrible, you know. What are you gonna do? Heathcliff sucks. But as a character in a book, they're great to read about. And Catherine is also not the best. I remember reading this book the first time when I was 14 and just thinking, Catherine is such a bitch. But I still really liked reading about her because, you know, characters can just be terrible people, but I still enjoy reading about it. So I just think Wuthering Heights is a classic that I would highly recommend you read. It's very readable. It's also one of those books where I think you'll understand most of what you're reading. For a lot of classics, for me personally, it can take me forever to get through them because I'm not that smarticles. But you know, this one was fine, and I was pretty young when I read it, so that should like mean something. And I think it's just Wuthering Heights is a lot of people's favorite books, and I highly recommend it. So if you want to read like a dark, tragic romance novel, like a gothic fiction, oh shoot, I just realized that all the books I'm going to recommend to you are kind of dark. But yeah, pick up Wuthering Heights. Very good, very good. So the next book I'm going to be recommending you, or the next classic I'm going to be recommending you, is Dracula by Bram Stoker. Bram Stoker. He's an Irish author. Dracula by Bram Stoker.
According to Wikipedia, Dracula is an 1897 Gothic horror novel by Irish author Bram Stoker.
This girl just says it better than I ever could. This one, what a ride. I think on my Goodreads I gave it 4 stars, but now like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, no, she deserves 5 and to be read by everyone. The only problem with this one is that it's a bit longer than necessary, and it's also what you call a epistolary. I'm gonna have to go Google that word because I cannot say it. Epistolary novel. Epistolary. So it's told through like a series of letters and diary entries and newspaper clippings, and you know, that's what I mean with epistolary. Dracula is about this like real estate agent, I think that's what he is, Jonathan Harker, who goes to this castle for some businesses, and he meets Dracula, but then he starts noticing that this guy is hella weird. He's a vampire. hella weird. There's just a bunch of other characters, including just one of the most badass female characters in any classic I've read about, who is Mina Harker. She marries Jonathan Harker eventually, but just she was such a great, strong character, and I find it a little hard to believe that a man could write like a novel written in what 1897 could write a novel with such a strong female lead. Like Mina Harker is great. The novel just follows Jonathan Harker and a bunch of other people, like the cowboy Quincy, who is just my favorite person ever, and how they kind of go try and stop Dracula from spreading his disease, his virus, across the world. Just we're following guys on a mission, guys and a gal on a mission. So why I think this classic is worth it is, well, again, it's also like a horror. It's just so dark and mysterious, but it's also kind of low-key action-packed, and all the characters are really great and really well done. So you really get to know the characters and their motivations. You also get to meet Van Helsing for the first time, and like he's become such an icon in pop culture that I think like it's worth it. The novel was a bit too long, so I would recommend listening to it as an audiobook just to help you get through it a bit quicker and just technically enjoy the story more. So yes, this copy is very old. I don't know if it was my dad's first originally, but he gave it to me, so I got this from my dad. I don't know if I got it from my dad or if I just took it from my dad. Also, this is the first time where we get to meet the three brides of Dracula, and everything with them in is just super creepy. Like their little baby vampires, just the way they sleep, just literally everything about them was so creepy, and I thought it was really well done. So I would highly recommend this if you are looking for a horror. If you like vampires, try this one. Again, yes, this could probably be classified as some sort of gothic horror fiction. Gothic again, like Wuthering Heights. The next one I'm going to be talking about might dethrone my current favorite classic, and this one might become my new favorite classic, but it's really just amazing, and that is Frankenstein, or the Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley. So I've already said it I think a billion times. Mary Shelley is amazing. I love her. Again, this is also an epistolary. It's also told in letters. So this one, no diary entries, just letters. Personally, it's the Wordsworth classic. These classics aren't the best, but like the quality, I don't know, like the way they look, the quality not the best, but the actual novel itself, pretty great. I think this one was published in 1818. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
Here's a summary from Wikipedia. Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus is an 1818 novel written by English author Mary Shelley that tells the story of Victor Frankenstein.
It does tell the story of Victor Frankenstein. It tells the story of Victor Frankenstein, who is kind of trying to play God. He's very smart. He's a scientist. He's very intrigued by everything around him, life and the existence of life. So he tries to recreate that, and in that process he kind of accidentally creates a monster, which he then abandons. Who's the real monster? You ask yourself that question. I really like this novel because, first of all, it's pretty short, so it reads very fast. Again, I would suggest reading it with a audiobook if you find it a bit too dense to get through. Some parts of it can be a bit too long. The part where Victor creates his monster was very disturbing and scary, so that was very well done. I loved all the characters in this. It was a very sad book, very tragic again. I think Dracula is probably the happiest book I have on this list. It is also kind of like the source of science fiction. Mary Shelley basically almost kind of created the genre with this book. So again, this is also a gothic horror. I think, okay, so Wuthering Heights isn't a gothic horror, it's just like a gothic book. Dracula, a gothic horror, and this one is also a gothic horror, which is just, I guess they make for really good classics, man. I don't know. I don't like spoil too much for you, but I will let you know that Frankenstein's monster is vegetarian. Honestly, after reading this, I also felt very, very sorry and a lot of like, I don't know, sympathy for the monster, because he's pretty much abandoned by not only Frankenstein but by everyone, as he's abandoned by society because he's not really appealing. He's a pretty ugly boy. He's just like made with different body parts, so he's obviously not a very pretty kid. And that makes me feel bad for him because all this boy wants is just love and communication. He's also very smart, I think, for a monster. But yeah, I don't want to get into this. There's a lot of just loneliness and just, it's just so sad and tragic. If you're looking for a short Gothic horror classic, I would suggest this one. If you're just looking for any classic, I would suggest this one. Those are just the 3 classics I'm going to recommend to you today, especially if you're a beginner just getting into classics. Highly recommend. What are some other classics that you also really enjoyed, and what are some classics that you really did not like? I've definitely read a few where I was like, this is terrible, and I know this is a classic, but I just never want to read this book ever again. And that it's coming from me, and I generally really love classics, so there are some terrible ones out there. Anyway, I hope you have a good day, make good choices, tell people you love them, and I will see you later. Bye. I don't know what I was doing.